Hello and welcome to the Online Entrepreneur Academy podcast. And today it's my huge pleasure to welcome Saif, who is actually sitting, as you can probably see if you're watching the video, sitting in his Dubai office looking out at the iconic buildings of the United Arab Emirates. So if I hand you over to Saif to introduce himself and tell you a little bit about what he does. So Saif, thank you very much for joining us today. Over to you.
Thank you for having me. I don't really know where to start, really. As you said, I live and work here in Dubai. I grew up here, so the opportunity to come back and work here was quite an easy one. I didn't feel like a new place, so got settled very quickly here. But essentially, so my role here is I'm a buying agent. So I work with a lot of people in real estate agents and property developers. But I just handle the legwork for people looking to buy property in Dubai. So I specialize in investment property. But I help end users here and there that want to buy their first home or moving or something like that. But yeah, that's it in a nutshell, really. The company that I work for is Nomad Homes. They're actually a tech company based in from out of America. So everything in the company is very data driven, basically. So making the process is quite precise with them. They look at everything. So yeah, it's quite an efficient system, really. And that's it, to be honest.
Thank you. That gives us the update. And it's interesting you mentioned data because, and we'll go back to your entrepreneurial journey, because a lot of entrepreneurs don't look at their data, and that's a huge mistake. So, can you tell us a little bit more why it's important to check your data? And maybe people are just looking at their social media data or their sales data. Tell us a little bit more about that, please.
Yeah, I can say from like a buying standpoint in my industry with property, it gives a bit of a roadmap because you could be taking stab in the dark and trial and error and just seeing what works and what doesn't and keep going. And that's its own form of data, really trial and error. But for me, especially, for example, if I have a client come to me and they say they want a property in a specific area, essentially the data allows me to really give my opinion. So in Dubai, especially, there are a lot of agents, a lot of people trying to sell property, and it comes across very salesy. That
Mm.
everyone has their own opinions and perspectives as to where's the best place to purchase. But the data doesn't really lie. So everything that I get is straight from the DLD, which is the Dubai Land Department. It's a government authority that has stats and data on the market. So it's all very realistic as well. As I say, it just gives you a bit of a roadmap. So someone says they want to buy a specific area to do a specific unit, specific investment style, that sort of thing. The data allows me to, as well as my own knowledge, it allows me to best help them basically and really make a fine tune what they're looking for. So that's it. So if I were to maybe to put it from an entrepreneurial example, yeah, being able to look at data and understand what's going wrong and what's going right from a data perspective, it would allow an entrepreneur to make better decisions, get to their goals.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's roll back a bit because we could say that you swam against the tide. You decided not to go to university, which a lot of your contemporaries were doing, and chose a different path. Can you? And that's it takes some courage and braveness, doesn't it, to do something differently. And some people will say, "Watch what the crowd's doing, something different," but it's different for everyone. So tell us a little bit about your decision then and how it's informed what you're doing today.
Yeah, sure. It's funny because I was never like the most academic person in school, and then during school, and because I'm 28 now, so during school and that you're very much just positioned to be the next step is obviously going to university. And I remember getting towards like end of my GCSEs as you go towards your A levels and thinking I'm finally getting finished with school. I just want to have fun because you're young, obviously, it's 15, 16, 17.
Fair
And then,
enough.
and then I'm like, oh, for God's sakes, I've got to now put another like X amount of years into something that I don't really know if I'm going to like it in 10 years' time. You go from asking if you're allowed to use the toilet to then being expected to make decisions that are going to impact your life until you quote unquote retire. Like it just didn't really make sense to me at the time. And I was always a bit entrepreneurial in school. I know it's quite like cheesy or cliche to say, but I did the whole sort of selling sweets. And I had another business where people would give me their Xbox controllers and I would take them apart and paint them how they wanted, and then I'd put them back together, and that was a whole business and stuff. So money was, I always say, I liked maths when money was involved, right? So then I got to the point of deciding to go to uni or not, and it just didn't really speak to me, to be honest with you. I didn't really know what to do, but I knew university wasn't it. So at this point, being raised in Dubai, I was in Dubai at that point, just 18 years old, and then decided to go back to the UK. and then just went straight into work pretty much while I was figuring it out. I worked, my first job was in sales. That was good because you earn commission. So at 18 years old, you're earning like just under £2,000 and you're like, this is sweet, this is amazing, I love this. But obviously there's a ceiling to that as well. So thankfully I stumbled or fell into like self-development, reading books. And that, which is, if you were to ask me in school, when I left school, would I make the choice to read books? I would say absolutely God no, never going to do that. But then again, it's just you find something that speaks to you. So yeah, so I started reading books, and then that sort of opened my mind and into sort of the possibilities of what you can achieve. I like to say now I attended the University of Life, as cheesy as that is, but it was very much experience and learning from other people through these books as well. And then shortly after that, Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's a very popular one, Robert Kiyosaki. I understood finance and investment and making money work for you and stuff. And I was like, okay, this sounds more my speed. It spoke to me a lot more. So I said, I need to learn how to do this. I need to be around property investors in specific. And yeah, and then I just started going to sort of network meetings, and there's a whole story behind it. It's not as simple as that, but I just wanted to be around people in the industry to learn how to make money through property.
Yeah, that makes huge sense. And I love the story you alluded to about selling sweets in school. And so obviously you had that entrepreneurial mind from a very early age. You saw an opportunity and you took it.
Mhm.
Yeah, let's move on. So roll it forward a bit. You just said that you started going to property meetings and networking. So how did that help? Or how did you discover these things? Because I think a lot of people think, I need to do something more, but where?
Yeah. I don't think I'd have all the answers for everyone, but I would definitely say that for me, what really worked was just having maybe not understand. What, how do they say? Begin with the end in mind, right? So you know exactly where you want to be, and then it's just not really trying to draw the roadmap, just on taking things as they come, right? I got wind of a free property seminar in Brighton, which is right near where I was. And it was actually sponsored or something to do with Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad company. So I was like, okay, perfect. Synchronicities and that. So I attended that. And at the time, wasn't really aware. Now I'm super aware. Every seminar has an upsell, right? Went to the seminar, they pinned it as free education on how to get started in property development or property investment. Went there, and then it was upsold to a 3-day course. It's about £1,000 in London. Currently, I just had £1,000 in my bank account, so I said, "Screw it, I want to do that as well." So then I went there, and yeah, and it just that started the process. Really, just getting around people. Everyone that was there had their own investments already, or was like me and starting from fresh.
Amazing. So yes, I heard you quoting Richard Branson there. Screw it, let's do it.
Yeah, that is one of his quotes. You're right.
Yeah. But it does speak to the entrepreneurial spirit and just going for it when you feel something's right, do it, and not everything perhaps works incredibly well, but it's a path, isn't it? And I guess you met other people along the way that contributed towards where you are
Mhm.
now in a direct or indirect way.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, and I have a lot of sympathy for entrepreneurs because it's painted out as a picture that's quite an easy process. Because you only really hear the good things, but really there are so many people out there that have made the decision to be an entrepreneur, and you don't really see that you're pretty much on your own. Basically, it can be quite a lonely journey. The Going back to the whole university thing, you're very much given a path. I'm not saying that everyone that goes to university has an amazing and an easy time, certainly not, but you are given a sort of a roadmap as to how to progress and then to get from school to uni to a job and there forth. I think with that comes a certain ceiling. I don't want to paint it all with one brush, but I just wanted a certain amount of freedom. And I think that entrepreneurship or just being in charge of your own schedule or finances or not basically giving yourself a ceiling, it definitely is much more attractive, but it's a much more lonely route. So for a lot of entrepreneurs that are trying to make things work, it can often feel like you're just talking to an empty room and no one really gives a crap until you do well. So it's getting to that doing well part it's a tough grind. It's a tough grind, sorry.
Yeah, no, that makes huge sense. And I think I know, as you say, it's a common theme. It is a lonely road. And sometimes it's made out to be so easy. Just start your business, do X, Y, Z. And there's a lot of graft in it and a lot of ups and downs, which I'm sure you've experienced as well.
Yes, certainly. It's interesting because the goal has always been very much the same, pretty much. It's in a nutshell, is that basically I don't want to be told when to wake up, when to go use the toilet, when to eat my food, all of these different things. In a simplified version, that's it. But how I get there or how I'm getting there you'd have to pivot a lot. There's a lot of you go 2 steps forward, 1 step back. There's a lot of you go back to the drawing board, make it work. And that's why I said it's been pretty much 10 years now, and it's been an incredible learning experience. And you learn a lot about your world, but I think more importantly yourself in that period.
Yeah, that makes huge sense. And going back to what you said about school and education, it is changing slightly here in the UK, but are schools really equipping children and young people for their lives? And I love it when you said having to ask permission to go to the loo to suddenly being choosing your life path. So what could be better, I suppose, is my question. What could be better in school education?
Yeah, I have to be careful because I can get quite passionate about it. But
Go
I
for it.
think is in school you're basically trained to be an employee, right? Whatever that looks like to the individual. But it's a very basic. It's you're trained to be part of the machine, so to speak. But I just don't think that school really subscribes to the idea or traditional education and academics. It doesn't subscribe to the idea that of the individual, like an internal happiness. It's
Mm.
more just prove your worth and just crack on with your job pretty much simply. I think that if there was if they spoke more to an individual, teaching how to ask yourself questions and be more attached to your own character as opposed. So I'll give you an example. So I think so gratitude, I think is a really important thing, right? It really shapes your perspectives. Okay. It's the difference between a pessimist and an optimist, to be honest with you, in my opinion. So I think I think back, like in school, we had diaries, right? So we would write down our homework and everything in our diaries and everything. Why is there not like a little, in the beginning of the day when we were made to read in form, just quietly, but why was there not little, what are 3 things you're grateful for? Get the students maybe thinking for themselves. And then I also think that's a great indicator as to a child's sort of mental well-being as well. Because if they turn around and they say, oh, I'm not grateful for anything, okay, that's a brilliant indicator to a teacher as to you need to ask questions as to why the student thinks that way. And then it leans into a child understanding themselves. If so, then when they get to a point where they're making a decision, go to uni or don't go to uni, they've been taught how to understand themselves for X amount of years, their entire academic career. Surely that would equip a student really well to make that decision. And then if they do choose to go to university, because it is still important for certain career paths, then
Yeah,
you're
sure.
a very self-aware individual going into whatever industry they choose.
Yeah, that makes huge sense. And what about finance? Because you mentioned finance earlier on and maths. I personally always thought that maths didn't teach me for the real world. The only thing I've ever used in my maths learning was percentages.
Sure.
Should maths be more practical or is,
Yeah, I feel like that's a certain yes. Again, you're quite right, actually. It's just being in more practical. So in maths, like I say in school in general, the only thing I really use day to day is how to write an email and how to say my kind regards and all of that stuff, sound professional. Outside of that, yeah, you're right, especially with finance. So it took me until I was 17, 18 to work out that, it sounds obvious now, to work out that maths is a massive part of making money and finance and budgeting. If it was communicated in that way, I would have been a bit more committed to learning maths. I make it sound like I was a really horrible student where I wasn't too bad, but yeah.
but you make some good points. It's getting the young person's attention. So let's move on a few years. So you grew up in Dubai and you're back there now. And obviously you're working with a company and we're going to put those in the show notes because guys out there, let's roll back my question back a bit. What is attractive about living in the UAE as opposed to perhaps living in a cold and northern climate?
Oh wow, where do I start? I think so. From my experience in the UK, obviously born in the UK, moved to Dubai when I was 7, turning 8, moved back to the UK when I was 18, lived there until I lived there for 10 years basically. So I feel like I have a good experience of both living in the UK and living here in Dubai. In the UK, I feel like we fall into this idea that we like to tell each other how it's not perfect, but then if we describe it or compare it to places outside of the UK, we imagine it is perfect. I tell you now, you couldn't be more wrong. I can't speak of other countries or cities, but Dubai, it's a largely expat population, right? So everyone that's in Dubai is here for a reason, basically. So you're surrounded by people with a clear vision, very ambitious, quite optimistic in general compared to my experience in the UK. And that's not to paint British people in a certain light. I've met some very ambitious British people and entrepreneurs. But in Dubai, you're just surrounded by it. It's a very different energy. Also, as well as that, the rulers here, the sheikhs, they are very, again, very ambitious, and that does filter down to the city. If they want something done to improve the city, they'll do it very quickly. They have a lot of care for both Emiratis and expats here in Dubai. So we're very well taken care of. The city, there's so much to do in Dubai. There's the potential to, you get like the American dream with the white picket fence and stuff like that. Yeah, it's the Emirati dream. That's where you're going to achieve it, really. I believe that. So it's a very well-run city. As I say, it's a very ambitious city. You're surrounded by great people from all walks of life. So it's a massive learning, massive education, sorry. It's tax-free, which is fantastic. So anything I earn stays with me, which is brilliant. And yeah, it's you got constant sun year round. If you like the sun, definitely
That's
come here.
right.
You don't get much of it. Yeah, honestly, I can't say anything bad about it. It's an amazing place for tourists for sure, but it's have you seen Black Panther, the film?
Yes, I have indeed. Yes, and I think most of our audience will have seen it because it's very
Okay,
popular, isn't
okay,
it?
so you'll probably get the reference, right? So Dubai is like Wakanda, okay? So when
Mm.
you're outside the bubble, it just looks like a city, a place in the Middle East, right? I'm sure on Instagram you see this, all this stuff, but you won't understand how advanced it is and how nice the people are until you come in the bubble. That it's unbelievable. It's hard to articulate, really. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes huge sense. And so, if someone's looking for, say, an entrepreneur wants to base themselves somewhere else, I'm hearing that you'd highly recommend if they have laptop and travel, this is a really good place to settle in.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think, obviously everyone's different. I'm not going to say that 100% of the people that live here stay here and they fall in love with the city. That's definitely my experience. I think out of 100 people, if 50 were to move to Dubai and 50 were to move to like a Western country like the UK, for example, I would put money on the majority of them, the people who move to Dubai staying as opposed to the UK. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes huge sense for all the reasons that you've outlined. I think the danger with any, you mentioned it being a holiday destination, the danger can be that people see only the holiday side, and yet there's a vibrant city, as you say, that's very caring underneath the holiday glitz, if I put it that way. That makes sense. Would that be a fair
Yeah,
way to
certainly, yeah. I think you do get a lot of people that move to Dubai with the idea because they see certain things on Instagram and they see the Lamborghinis and all of that stuff, and they think I'm just going to come here and that life's going to be there. No, certainly not. Like everything in the world, every city, if you want to live whatever lifestyle you dream of, it's going to take a graft, and Dubai's no exception. So there's no guarantee for anyone coming to Dubai that you're going to achieve all your dreams. But what it does do is it gives you all the tools that you need to do that. It's just up to the person to make it happen.
Fantastic. Let's move to what you're currently doing now, and you're still with property, and that was your starting point once you started your entrepreneurial journey. I'm not going to talk politics, but I hear a lot of chatter in the UK about it's going to be difficult to own a property, to rent it out because of laws changing here, and we won't go into that because our listeners are from all over the world. But as a property investor, if someone's thinking about investing in another country, what advice would you give them about investing or buying a property in the United Arab Emirates? What are the advantages? That's what I'm asking here.
Sure. So one thing I say to a lot of my clients now, so a lot of my clients are in America and in the UK. So I'll say buying in Dubai today, it's like buying in London in like the 80s, right?
Oh,
There's the price per square foot in Dubai is considerably less than it is in places like New York, London, Tokyo, Hong Kong, these big major cities, right? The reason for that is Dubai is a very young city. So there's a lot of development going on here in Dubai, and to get from one side to the other, it's about 40-minute drive from east border to west border. Okay, so it's not that big, but there's a lot of development in real estate happening. Okay, so that land will not always be there; it's finite. So we're seeing year on year the prices will continue to rise, and then in 10, 15 years, it will be like the similar sort of prices as those major cities like New York and London. Okay. So that's why I always encourage people if they're thinking about buying in Dubai. I always say I'm not in sales. I'm an advisor. Okay, I will never push someone to buy in Dubai. But if you have money to invest in property, now is a fantastic chance. I really believe there's going to be two kinds of people in 10 years' time when it comes to purchasing in Dubai. Those that thought about it and wish that they did, or those that thought about it and are so glad that they did. Okay, because as I say, the appreciation of an asset, it's you're looking at 30 to 40% annually now.
wow.
Dubai have a plan, an urban plan, which is going to see the population go from 3.2 to 7.6 in 15 years. That's what is projected, and it's
on
keeping
target, yes.
it's on target. Yes, so the demand for living is very high. The quality of living is very high. Dubai has the most millionaires moving to each year. I don't know if I've
Mm,
got that correctly, but essentially there's so a lot of people are putting their money into Dubai,
mm,
which speaks to the market growth, but it also speaks to now being such a great time. There's an old saying, it's the best time to buy a property was yesterday, the second
yeah.
best time to buy is today, and the worst time is tomorrow.
That makes huge sense.
Yeah.
And you said with investors who have got a lot of money to spend, they're wise investors. They won't be spending where they think they're not going to do well. Sorry.
No, go on.
So playing devil's advocate, let's say I'm someone with a few, I've got a small investment money in from the UK. What's the sort of minimum entry level, let's say? Because this is really interesting because here in the UK, people used to move to Spain and now that's not so possible with the European Union not being here. Yeah, tell us about minimum investment or opportunity, let's put it that way.
Sure. So being realistic, obviously it's clear that I love the city, but there are bad places to buy here. There are places where you're going to get much better of an investment than other places. So that's being aware of that. So in Dubai, obviously, yes, you can find properties in the hundreds of millions or whatever to purchase. But it's not every property is like that. So I would say, so I work in dollars because a lot of my clients are American, but I would say a good investment starts at, let me do the conversion. It starts at about $300,000 here in
Wow, is that all? I say that's all because I'm guessing that people who have money to invest in property would have that sort of funding available.
Yeah, so it's about £231,000 basically. Uh,
That's, yeah.
and that's where you can get the assets that are appreciating at that 30 to 40% mark on average. And your yield, you're looking at anywhere from about 7 to 11% annually. So it's the numbers are definitely there, and that's the market today. So the city improves every single year at a rapid pace. So and I think it's important when you're talking about finances, especially other people's, you have to be conservative with those figures. So that's why I give those numbers. But yeah, so anyway, so the demographic in Dubai, it suits studios and one-bed apartments or flats. Why is that? Because Dubai is a fantastic tourist destination, and it's the business hub for the region. Right,
Mm.
you've got so many Fortune 500 companies that choose Dubai as their headquarters for the Middle East and North Africa. That's like Ford, Goldman Sachs, Apple, all these companies, they're based in Dubai, right? So
Um,
does that mean you have a lot of people that come here for business as well? So year round, holiday makers, realistically in a hotel, how many studios are compared to 3, 4 bedrooms? The majority of it is hotel rooms or studios, right? So it's the same thing. So holiday goers and stuff like that, Airbnbs, holiday lets, they're very popular here, as well as that people that move to Dubai. A lot of them, like myself, don't necessarily have families and stuff like that. So I have a one-bedroom place in here in
mm.
Dubai as well. So it speaks to the expat as well, basically. Obviously, there's a market for families as well, and that's where you look at your townhouses and your villas. But the £230,000 mark that I said, that's like studios and one-bed apartments here in Dubai. They go very well. The occupancy rate for Airbnbs, on average, it's about 80% annually.
That is impressive. And I was going to say, what about the rules and regulations for like a tenant being there and because with again the conversation in the UK, and I don't know if it's the same for our listeners in other English speaking parts of the world, is oh, I can't get my tenant out, they haven't paid, I've got to go to court, and it can take years to get someone out. Is that a big issue in
So it's very simple in Dubai. So this is one of the beauties of the government here is that you're not messing around with elections and stuff like that that can change things on a dime. Someone could be in power today and then next year could be a different party and then everything's flipped on its head, right? That's not the case. Here they have something called RERA, which is it's a government agency that protects the landlords and the tenant. And it's very clear. If you want a tenant out, they need a year's notice. That's all.
oh,
Give
that's
give it 10 years. If you give them that paperwork, so what happens is you notify RERA that you need the tenant to leave. You're giving them the year's notice. They come to the door. They give them the tenant the slip. You have a year left in the property, and that's that. If for a landlord, if you want them out next month, it's just not going to happen. The tenants are protected. But at the same time, if a landlord gives the year's notice and it's 366 days, the tenant's not going to be there. And if they are, they're taken out quite swiftly.
That seems very fair to both landlord and tenant, which I think is the chatter I hear. It's not fair. It tips in one direction or another, depending, as you say, on who might
Sure.
be sitting in the government seats. Now, that's really reassuring.
Mm.
Excellent. No, that I'm absorbing all that because I think that is just so straightforward, so simple, and so logical. It's almost unbelievable.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's really it's the tone of the city. It's that everything is quite straightforward. They're very it's all I think it benefits them that they're so young because they're able to look at these powerhouses around the world, major cities, and really learn from the systems and mistakes that they have in place, but also implement their own that work well. And I think that is it's you can see how quickly the city is developed, and it's a testament to the systems that they have in place and the people that run the city and do it quite efficiently.
Mm, absolutely. So let's now, at the top of the conversation, you mentioned self-development. So I just want to change our line of conversation to self-development, and you reference Richard Kiyosaki. So someone go back to your younger days, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, what would, if someone was looking to read and think, I've heard about self-development, what is it? Where would you direct them and why?
Mhm. Yeah, so I think so self-development really it's very what's the word specific to the individual, right? So really I would say what areas of your life do you want to improve? I think that there is a lot of people maybe they think it's quite cheesy or the idea of it or stuff like that. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Get over yourself. Just read bloody books. You know what I mean? But it can be really different. So it's not only reading books. YouTube, there's a wealth of information on YouTube. It's podcasts, a great place to listen on the go. I think self-development is not just what you listen to that's productive, but also what do you listen to that's not. I'm a big believer in, to be honest, I know some people maybe disagree. Don't watch the news. Literally do not watch the news. All it does is it gives you an idea of the world that the world's dying. So you're gonna wake up every single day. You start your day. I'm gonna watch the news. Oh, this person's bombed this place. The world's all it's gonna burn down. No, it's not. It's yeah. Our minds. What do they say? Neuroplasticity, right? So your view on the world is really shaped by the information that you give yourself. So just taking a bit of responsibility over what information is it that you're giving yourself. But yeah. So to link it back to your question. So what do you want to learn? Okay, for me it was I want to learn how to make money without going to university. Okay, then that fell into, okay, so I need to be around people. I don't know how to speak to people. Okay, so then I need to be better in communication. Okay, so then it was how to win friends and influence people. Dale Carnegie, I read that book as well. Oh, my mindset isn't great on money. Okay, so then I read Think and Grow Rich. I use these books, like when you have an understanding of what it is that you want to improve, they just reveal themselves. And if you're not a reader, okay, fine. I have to this day, actually, I've been with Audible, I think, for maybe coming on to 12 years. I bloody love the thing. It's because I wasn't a big reader. I was quite bad, had quite bad dyslexia. So reading I wasn't great at. So what I'd do is I'll buy the book and then I had the audio book with my free credit and I read it while I was listening to it. And I felt that helped me read a lot quicker. So you can be creative and it doesn't it's not homework. I get when I see the books and I read the contents, or what is it where they show the paragraphs? Not the paragraphs, the chapters.
I want to say menu, but the
Index.
chapter heading, yeah.
Yeah, basically, yes. So I'm reading through that, and then I feel quite excited. I'm like, oh, I'm going to learn this and this, and then I look forward to a chapter, and it genuinely is quite exciting. And then you can envision yourself after I read this, I'm going to be really good at that. Obviously, it's not as smooth as that. Practice it makes perfect, but yeah, just have an understanding of what you want to learn, and just be creative. You don't. It doesn't have to be a traditional reading of a book. Just there's so much info out there. We're so lucky to have access to so many different forms of education.
Yeah.
Have a bit of fun.
That's true, yes, because back in the day, it's not so long ago that the it was only things were only presented in book form, and then we have video, and as you say, YouTube and audio. There's so many accessibility points, which is a huge advantage.
I mean, even yeah, I would have thought even for yourself, someone that has guests on and you speak about all these different things, like okay, yeah, you're hosting a podcast, but I imagine it's quite a lot of self-development comes through just speaking to these people that you have on your show.
Yeah,
You can,
absolutely. It's so true. We learn something from every single guest, and especially for our audience of entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, there's so much value there. And I usually say, and I don't think I said it at the top of our conversation, grab a pen and paper, take some notes, because if you just walk away with one thing that's, and to your point, relevant to you and your progress, then it's not just entertainment, it's learning and applying it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think I can't remember the exact saying, but it's something along the lines of basically learning from your mistakes is like the best education, right?
Yeah,
But
that makes sense.
I think that self-development, whatever it looks like, you're learning from other people's mistakes as well. So you're a step ahead essentially. It's super successful, whatever that looks like. And they decide to write a book on that. And then in that book, it explains all of the trials and tribulations and what they wish they did and all that. Why would you wait to experience that firsthand? Why? Surely you can understand someone else's journey and use that as information to.
Yeah, absolutely, to avoid things. And to that point, you've shared with me that moving back to the UAE wasn't all a smooth path. So how did you keep going? Because there were hurdles, and please don't feel an obligation to go into those hurdles now when you were actually there. But how did you keep going? Because that is a common with entrepreneurs. I just want to give up one morning, and
Yeah.
then this morning everything's okay.
Yeah, and I'll be transparent. There were times where I was really thinking, I don't actually think I'm going to be able to make it work here. Is that maybe the goal, the dream is still alive, but maybe it's just this isn't how I envisioned it was going to work out. Maybe this isn't it. But then again, falling on self-development, that's what helps you through those times. It doesn't really stop the bad times from coming, but it helps you navigate them. So to give it a little insight, I came here in February, oh, sorry, end of February, and then I started at a company. I was told that it was going to be a certain way, and I was going to earn a certain amount of money, and I was this, that, and the other. It just wasn't true. I basically I came out here with my savings because it was a commission role at the time that I was in, and they didn't give me my visa, which meant that which is illegal in Dubai. But it meant that I was paying a premium on everything because one, I didn't have a bank account, so I was paying international transaction fees. I was moving from Airbnb to Airbnb, which is much more expensive to live. So I ran out of funds quite quickly. But really, the self-development or the resilience played a big part. I think something that self-development has given me is faith, having a lot of faith. So I'm very confident that my goals are, there's just no other outcome, right? I don't know when they're gonna materialize, and of course some of them have already, which I'm grateful for, but I just know that they will, right? So if you're in a position where you're like, oh, I'm trying not to swear, you're like, oh darn, it's not happening how I want it to. I thought if I did this action, it would happen in this exact way and it would produce this result, but that hasn't happened. And there's a period of sort of you feel defeated or upset about it. But then when you fall back on that faith and resourcefulness and solution-oriented mindset, you just find a way. It always comes up. So I'll tell you, I was still in this company that I was with, and I was thinking, I'm out of money. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I got on my laptop and I loaded up Indeed in the UK, and I thought, I'm just going to have to move back. I'm going to have to be embarrassed. Everyone knows that I came to Dubai and I failed. And I was on it for about 30 seconds and it just felt bloody awful. I was like, "Ah, it just doesn't speak to me. I can't do it." So I said, screw it, put my laptop away and just chilled out. And I watched like one of a creator on YouTube, and I just chilled out for the evening. Next day, wake up, go on LinkedIn, recruiters messaged me, do you want to have a chat? Okay, sure, I'll have a chat. Spoke to him, told him this is what I'm looking for in a job if I were to take one. He said, okay, I'll call you back. Hour later, calls me back. I found this job. They want to interview you. Perfect. Went at the interview, and that's where I am now. And it's a fantastic company. Honestly, they're so efficient. They take such good care of the employee. They really support me as an employee, because even though yes, I'm on their books, it feels like I'm running my own business. Basically, I have my own client base, and it's up to me to work out what to do with my clients and manage my time and all this stuff. So it suits me. But yeah, I was rambling on a little bit, but to turn it back, it's just having just utmost confidence and faith that your goals are going to happen. You just got to really believe in yourself and be kind to yourself and say, okay, regardless of what happens, it will happen. Don't be so obsessed with the how you get there, more just knowing that the destination is there, and take your lefts and rights as they come.
It's almost like you manifested it from the description you've just given there. Like, no, I'm not going to look at jobs in the UK yet. I'm going to give it more of an
Yeah,
opportunity. And then,
totally. Totally, yeah. I think I can be quite stubborn, which works very well in a professional sense, because if someone comes to me and they say, listen, I want this property, and I'm saying it's a bad investment, don't do that, do this. I'll stand my ground with that. And then as well as that, stubbornness comes with, it helps me with this as well. So no, I will, I know I'll make it work. 100% I'll make it work. I'm a sore loser. And I think going back to the UK that would be me admitting that I was wrong, and I just refuse to do that. And thankfully I wasn't wrong, because it's a beautiful place.
yeah, absolutely, very tenacious. So your role at the moment seems like your entrepreneurial self, as you described it, within a company structure and a good team and good people around you, so you can grow. And you've got there because of your tenacity and determination, despite all the odds. Amazing.
100%. Yeah, these things they just have a way of showing themselves. All you have to do is just steer the ship, essentially. Just like if you have faith in your ability and faith in your goals, just take every step as it comes and just know that it will happen. And it's so much easier said than done. If we could have had this on a different day where I'm feeling like it's not going to happen and it could be a completely different conversation. But my base under everything is that I know it's going to happen. And yeah, if I don't say so myself, I'm good at it. When I've had a guy message me on Instagram today asking to help me to help him find the right investment property in Dubai. So I've faith in my ability as well. I don't see any reason, and I feel like every entrepreneur should have this on even on the bad days. Is if you have faith in your ability, faith in your goals that they're going to materialize, then just let it happen. Just do what you need to do in the moment. And when stuff goes bad, just navigate it. Just be kind to yourself. It's fine.
And you mentioned, when you mentioned that made me think of integrity. And I know you told me a story in your early sales day that you would never sell to someone who the product wasn't right for. And I think sometimes we're so jaded and hardened to what's perceived as sales. And you said as you say, it's not sales, it's finding the right thing. But how does integrity play a role here? Because I think, if I'm honest, some people are very skeptical. Oh, anyone who's selling a house or property or a vacuum cleaner, whatever it is, they just want to get the money. So how do you get what's right for the client? I think that's what I'm saying.
I think this is the only room in the world, let's say, that I'm not a buyer. Okay. When I leave this office or when I'm not at working, basically, I am a buyer. I'm someone's client, whether I'm buying a piece of chocolate or I'm buying a house. So
Yeah.
I understand from experience what it's like. Okay. And that's something that I think about as when I'm helping my clients. Okay. So for me, I'm simply not interested in helping someone once. If obviously, if within reason, if someone just wants to buy a house to live in, okay, of course, I'll help you buy a house to live in. But for me, with investment, I want to be able to put someone in a position where they have maybe that 230,000 and they want to turn that into 500. Okay, so let's do that together. And after you turn that, you essentially doubling your money. You're going to want to do that again, right? So I'm interested in having long-term relationships, friendships, essentially. Every single with me when I'm talking to clients, especially for the first time, I'm not focused on selling a property. It just doesn't interest me because the sales will come inevitably, whoever I speak to. But really, I'm focused on making a friend, making someone comfortable. Because you're not buying a chocolate bar, you're buying a blooming house. Like it's a big decision. It's making that friend. And in any city or country, there are people that are just in it for the sale. And those people, they might get a win here or there. But if I sell to you today, I also want to be able to help you purchase a property in 10 years' time. And then I want to speak to you throughout, in between, throughout. So yeah, I don't know if I answer your question there really, but I think it's
Yeah.
for a client, it's you just feel comfortable. Even if it's not with me, let's say you want to buy, I don't know, in Trinidad and Tobago, just whoever it is that's helping you, just make sure that they're a friend, essentially. It's way easier.
Yeah, that makes huge sense. And as you say, it's about, if I understand correctly, and I'm sure I do, it's about creating relationships and understanding the person and what they need and finding the right thing for them rather than I've got this XYZ chocolate bar or whatever to sell and you're going to have it, whatever. It's not about that, is it?
Yeah, and I say that to a lot because in Dubai, so I work mainly with off-plan developments from an investment perspective, it's a much better purchase. So in Dubai, you have off-plan, which is essentially while the property is being built, and then you have secondary market, which is basically property like ready properties. There, you're just buying it; it already exists, right? However old. With off-plan, you have all these developers now, and some are better than others. But one thing I know is that the developers, they have their own sales agents and they have a specific product that's coming to market. They've just launched it, this, that, and the other. I'm telling you now, developers, they push certain projects. That's a little inside nugget. But
Yeah.
so say to a client and say, you can go into a developer's sales office and speak to a certain agent. And there are some great agents that are working for the developers. I work closely with a lot of them, so I'm not bashing any of them. But I just know that they have been told by someone to sell a specific property to make sort of mold here's someone's requirements and mold why those requirements fit with this property, which is why I would always recommend coming to someone like myself where I have no bias towards a specific developer or a specific project. My only bias is towards your goals. If it doesn't suit your investment goals or whatever it is, then it's not for you, it's not for us, you know?
So you've got the whole market view in a word, haven't you? So
Yeah.
absolutely. And not to go into a lot of detail, because obviously this will be one-to-one with clients, but are there mortgage opportunities? Is there insurance for property in the UAE?
Yeah, totally. So with off-plan developments, you pay the payment plan. So to put it simply, so typically you pay about 30% down, and then you're paying maybe anywhere between 1% and 5% a month or every 3 months or something like that until completion. And then on handover of the development, you pay 20%, the rest of it, basically. So it's like a 30-70 split, 30%, 70% during construction, 30% after construction. So they're interest-free payment plans, basically. So you can, all of the money goes into an escrow account. It doesn't go to the developer. The developer can only access the money that you've paid for the property after they complete it. So that
That's
comes with
reassuring.
reinsurance, exactly, reassurance. So that's essentially in a nutshell. You can be a bit more technical with it as well. So for example, a lot of these payment plans, they allow you to sell a property after a certain amount is complete. So let's say it's 50% of the payment plan. If you pay for 50% of it, you're allowed to sell the property to someone else, right? So you don't actually have to have the keys to the property before you make profit on it, which is fantastic. Because if someone tells me, oh, my budget is £200,000, and I'm saying, okay, this property that is valued at 400,000, but you're allowed to sell it at 20%. So really, if you have £200,000, you can still buy a property worth 400,000 and just sell it at 20%. And the market is, and that the average time a property stays in the market here in Dubai is 10 days. It's very,
Wow.
the demand is so high because it's such a good investment opportunity. People are trying to buy all the time. They have these launches for these developments. They sell 600 units in 4 hours. People, they queue up almost when iPhone release or Apple releasing your iPhone and you like the people outside the Apple store. That's what it's like for these properties. It's manic. Okay. But that's my job to take care of the mania. You just
Don't have
enjoy
to queue.
the turn. Yeah,
You do
exactly.
the queuing, so to speak.
So that's it with off plan. With secondary, you can get a mortgage. Actually, I should say you can also get a mortgage with off plan, but the loan to value is at 50%. So you have to have 50% of the property value to then get a mortgage on it. But yeah, with secondary, you can get mortgages. It works quite similarly in the UK. You get a certain loan to value with an interest rate at the bank. But I always say if you have the funds, if you're in a position where you don't need to pay, because there's no tax. So you don't need to pay interest, you don't need to pay tax. Why would you take out a mortgage? Okay, if you have to, then of course,
Yeah.
do so. Those options are available. The rates are different for residents and non-residents. So if you're buying from abroad, your rate will be a bit higher, but still it's nothing crazy. If you're a resident here, then your interest, it's a residence interest rate. But yeah, they're
Yeah.
available.
And I think the other common questions with property is, do you get a visa, and what about actual insurance of the property? So obviously that's something insurance you could advise and take care of, but is the answer a yes or a no?
Yeah, there is, yeah. Especially with you're paying a service charge on a lot of these properties. That's part of my cash flow figures as well. So then it's price per square foot. It can be anywhere from 7 dirhams per square foot to 15-25 dirhams per square foot. It's different, but that involves a lot like the maintenance and the 24-hour security and stuff like that. So that's involved. What was your other question? Sorry, insurance.
Insurance, and I can't remember my other questions because my mind was distracted by security. Because again, people haven't been to the UAE or won't perhaps realise that most properties or all properties are very secure, especially in apartments, and the standard of cleanliness in corridors, which is often an issue here, is quite high. As I understand, that's still the case.
Yeah, very high. Yeah, it's an incredibly safe city. Crime rate's at 1%. If you leave your phone on the table, someone's more likely to charge it for you than take it. You know,
That's awesome.
yeah, it's really safe. But it's funny actually because saying that, even though the odds are much less of someone breaking into your home here, you do have 24/7 security all the time. You go to a gated community, which is more common in Dubai. Um, they take your number, your Emirates ID, your number plate, everything on the door. If you're a guest, obviously,
Yes, yeah,
they're constantly just going around on their golf buggies, making sure all the residents are okay, safe. I know I can walk outside at 2 in the morning and be perfectly comfortable.
yeah. It's really good. It's such a beautiful multi-cultured city, which is another huge advantage, which we haven't really. It's obviously implied in what you said with expats being there, but it is very multicultural, isn't it? Which and gives people living there a much better worldview than perhaps everyone in their own country. So we've looked at the advantages of property in the UAE, and those will be in the show notes, and looked at your entrepreneurial journey. So my last sort of set of questions, or one question, is what's the future? Have you got some ideas for the future, or are you letting it take broad strokes path?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I have my goals, future plans. I think right now I'm just really enjoying the what I've got set up here. But obviously it's expanding my client base. It's very rewarding to help people make such great investments. It genuinely is generational wealth. I do see it as if I could help someone in their 20s, for example, not even that, but I could help someone buy a property today, and that could genuinely pay for their child's university fees later down the line. So I know what I said earlier, but I'm not totally against university. But just stuff like that. So yeah, so obviously expand my client base, help more people. I have a lot of people internationally that buy abroad, as I said. So keep doing that. I have my own ideas in business as well that tie into property, because a lot of these off-plan investments, they're going to be handed over in 2 or 3 years' time. Right now, management companies, they charge about 15%. I'm thinking, if I've got an entire client base that I consider friends that buy property, and their properties are going to come to the market in 2 or 3 years' time, to me, it makes logical sense to have some sort of management company and charge them a lesser rate, 8% as opposed to 15%. So that's a business that I've thought about. So I do have these goals and ideas, but yeah, ultimately just see where the tide takes me on the way to getting there.
I always ask my guests a few final questions. We'll just change the pace here. So, Saif, first of all, thank you so much for being with us today. Lots of golden nuggets about entrepreneurship, about find your path, how it doesn't have to be one set route. And for investors listening to this, they must be champing at the bit to talk to you. And once again, it'll be in the show notes. But imagine you're on a desert island. And you can have one piece of music. What music would you choose?
Music,
Yeah, you can imagine you can play it. Don't go technical on me, but what piece of music would you
like to listen to?
to listen to? One piece of music on your desert island, yeah, to listen to.
Yeah. Okay. Mm.
Ambushed you with that one, didn't I?
Yeah. Does it have to be music, or can it be an audiobook?
We'll come to books later, so choose music. I'm going to pin you down on this one.
Okay. Oh wow. I don't know. My music taste is very specific.
Okay, I'm sure our audience will not be surprised to hear something different. A lot of my guests say things that are totally surprising.
Yeah. So okay, I'm gonna ask you a question off the back of yours. So can this just be a band, or does it have to be a particular song?
We can say a band, and then I need the particular song. We're going to be very strict.
Okay. Okay. Well,
No mercy.
yeah, you're getting an insight into a bit part of my personality here. I've loved a band called Bring Me Horizon since I was like maybe 14, 13. Yeah, I'd listen to them. A song, I honestly couldn't tell you. There are so many good ones.
So the band was called Bring Me to the Horizon.
Bring Me the Horizon.
Okay, and I just need one. Just tell us one.
Just one song?
Yeah, one song. I understand that it's not say your favorite, it's just one of many.
Okay. It Never Ends.
Okay, this might be new to our audience, so
Yeah.
we'll put it in the show notes how to find it. Now, you can have one book or audio book. So what book you've already got the faith book of your choice, and you've got Shakespeare. So
Okay.
one book of your choice or audio
One
book.
book of my it'd be How to Build a Raft, I think. But
That's actually a book.
no, but I'm sure there is something
I
to
love
survive the raft.
that. I'll search for it on Amazon and see if it exists. Love
No.
that. If that doesn't exist, what would be the book you choose?
What book? Uh,
Because you've mentioned a few already, so I think the audience have got a taste of your self-development books, but for all I know, it may be a novel.
yeah, no, I'm not much of a fiction reader. So I think it would probably be, I read Think and Grow Rich like once a year. Uh,
Hmm.
so I think it would be probably that. Yeah.
Oh, fair enough then. And the final question is, you can have one luxury, whatever you consider a luxury. But you've got your fish in the sea, you've got your fruit on the trees, you've got those two things you mentioned. What luxury would you take with you?
Okay. I think it would be, if I had known these questions would come, I would have done some homework.
Oh, that's why
Uh,
I don't like my guests to do their homework. I want them to
I
just off
should,
the top of their head.
sorry, I should have known because I have actually listened to what your episodes before. I just didn't think about it. I want to say a tent, but I feel like I could build a really cool shack. Let's say a fishing rod.
A fishing rod, fair enough. That's very practical. We've had a whole range of things from toothpaste to moisturizer cream to a boat, which I now don't allow. I think your book, How
Toothpaste
to
is a
Build
good
a
one.
Raft. Hmm?
So toothpaste is a good one, actually.
Yes, it is a good one. That one's gone, I think, from the shop of Desert Island things. So thank you very much indeed for being with us today. Really appreciate it. And obviously, the show notes will tell people how to find you. And yeah, so that's it really. Any final words for our entrepreneurs, solopreneurs?
No, not really, to be honest. Yeah, just
I think you said it all, haven't you? And
yeah, keep going.
I was going to say that's what I've picked up on. Keep going, don't give up because it will happen. And obviously, it doesn't happen from just sitting there. You've made it happen. And I think that's an inspiration, especially to people of your generation. There's a lot that can be done and inspiration for everyone. So thank
Yeah,
you once again.
100%. Yeah, you're welcome. Just off the back of what you said as well, I think that there are loads of people that are maybe discouraged by other people's perspectives and opinions, but really, I think for the entrepreneur, the most important opinion is your own. Just listen, be kind to, just listen to yourself, you know.
And be kind to yourself. Very wise words. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Oh, appreciate it.
We're recording this on a Sunday, so have a wonderful Sunday afternoon. I thank you for your time out of your busy, maybe your relaxing weekend and your busy week. Thank you.
Yeah, and you appreciate it.